Okay, hello everybody. Shavua Tov. Boy, sorry for all the technical difficulties today. Internet has been out in this whole area of Los Angeles. I'm using a hotspot, so I'm hopeful that we'll be able to learn together through that. Hello, Ir Carmi. Hello, Marvin. Hello, Daniel. Thank you so much. Yes, tonight is the last Hasidut class on this YouTube channel, but you'll be able to continue Hasidut if you'd like on my own YouTube channel and possibly on the B'nai Zion channel, the synagogue I'm moving to in a couple weeks in Chattanooga, Tennessee. So that link, by the way, is a link to my own channel where if you want to keep doing Hasidut after Shabbat, we can learn together there. Tonight, we are going to talk about Korach, and the idea that we are going to come across is one that we've learned a couple of times together about the different worlds. We've talked about three in particular: a world of thought, a world of speech, and a world of action. How each one of those becomes a little less abstract. You have thought, which represents kind of wild creativity. There's nothing solid there. You can't point to anything. There's no substance. Then you have speech, which is a little more substantial. It's specific, at least. With thought, it's pretty amorphous. But with speech, even though there's nothing physical you can touch, it's a little more substantial than thought. And then finally, you have the world of action, things, physical things, which, unlike speech, has some body to it. And tonight, the Kedushat Levi is going to introduce us. He's going to kind of expand this idea and talk about how it relates to the generations of Jews that were wandering in the desert. So let's begin. Vayikach Korach ben Yitzhar ben Kahat ben Levi v'Datan v'Abiram. So in Korach, the son of Yitzhar, the son of Kahat, the son of Levi, took Vayikach Korach. He took something, and Datan and Abiram, etc. So they all are going to protest against Moses. Here's his comment. Hine Haramban Nachmanides says, because this generation knew that they were not going to enter the land of Israel. Because of that, the love that this generation had for Moses was diminished. And it caused them to complain against Moses. That makes sense. If you remember, the Parsha right before this was the one about the spies, the one where the Israelites, having lost faith in God's being able to take them into the land of Israel, are then condemned to wander and die in the wilderness. So because of that, says the Kedushat Levi in the name of Nachmanides, it caused them to lose a little love for Moses and complain. And that's how we find Korach here, having lost faith and trying to form a coup against Moses. And the matter is this. And he says the situation two. You have the generation of the desert, and then you have the generation of those who will enter the land of Israel. Don't forget, before that condemnation, there was just the Israelites. The whole group was going to the land of Israel. But after last week's Parsha, you have now a split. You have some of the community who were slaves in Egypt, are going to die in the wilderness. Then you have some of the community, the children of them, their own children, who are going to enter the land of Israel. You have now a dichotomy, whereas you did not before last Parsha. V'hine dor hamidbar. He says, first, let's start with the Dor Hamidbar, the generation of the desert. He says, Elashon Midbar Hudibor. The word Midbar, which means wilderness, it comes from the word Dibur, which is a word, speech. Because everything in their lives, all of the miracles, happened through speech. He says, because there are righteous ones, tzaddikim, who act only through speech. They don't need any action. All of their miracles happen with speech. They didn't have to do anything. It was just through words alone, or rather a lack of action on their part, that all of their miracles occurred. This is the Dor Hamidbar, the ones who saw the 10 plagues, the ones who saw the crossing of the sea. They're the ones who experienced miracles without needing to do anything. They're the generation of the Midbar, of the Dibor, of speech, of a lack of action in when it comes to miracles. V'dor shenichnasu la'eretz Yisrael, b'mermaz ha'asiyah, and that generation which is going to enter the land of Israel, it's a hint on action as opposed to their parents, who their generation represented speech. The generation that go into the land of Israel represents action. Because they needed to do things. Take Joshua, for example. Kasher nilcham, when he fought against the 31 kings, you can read in the book of Joshua, I think chapter 8. He needed to do physical things in order to cause miracles, in order to beat them. But Moses, who existed, who lived in the generation of the Midbar, of the wilderness, of speech, Lo hayat tzarich la'asot shum pula, he didn't need to do anything. Rak pa'al hakol b'dibur, everything happened through speech. V'zeh shekavash Yoshua et Yericho, but he says, but there's a problem. When Joshua defeated Jericho, if you remember, when he defeated Jericho, he merely walked around the perimeter for a week, and then on Shabbat walked around 7 times, blew the shofar, and the walls came tumbling down. That doesn't look like action. What do you mean that Joshua, of the generation of those who will enter the land of Israel, was able to conquer a city without any action? It seems to go right against this argument that we have a generation who's connected to speech and a generation who's connected to action. This conquering of Jericho happened not by any act of Joshua, but it happened through a lack of action. It was just a miracle that he was able to conquer that city. Hakol b'dibur, everything happened by speech. Kamavo ar b'divrei rabotinu zichronan livracha. We actually learned something about this, he says, in the Talmud. Hu machamat sheyericho kabash b'Shabbat. It's because Jericho was conquered on Shabbat. And now we'll take a quick detour, and he'll teach us a lesson about Shabbat and the power of Shabbat in terms of our own intellect, as it relates to this idea of speech and action. And we learned in the writings of the Ari that the knowledge that one's teacher has during the week, the student has on Shabbat. This idea that when we learn on Shabbat, we have a raised intellect, whereas one's teacher during the week, is able to decipher, certain things about the text that a student is not able to. The Talmud teaches us that on Shabbat, a student attains that level. And that's going to relate here because Moses was Joshua's teacher. So you see maybe where we're going with this. The knowledge that Moses had on any given day of the week, Moses, who did everything through speech, whose miracles occur through a lack of action. Uvazeh habechina kavash Yoshua Yericho b'Shabbat. And it's because of this that Joshua was able to conquer the city of Jericho on Shabbat without any action, through speech alone, because on Shabbat he had the intellect of his teacher Moses. That is to say, that is you'll go on aval ba'ai. Aval ba'ai ushar milchamot, but when it came to conquering the city of Ai, when it came to all of the other wars, hayat sarich lif'ula, he needed to do some action. It was only Jericho, because it was conquered on Shabbat, that he was able to tap into that world of dibur, the world of speech. V'hine Torat Moshe, Daniel, thank you for that nice comment. Thank you. V'hine Torat Moshe, hu keneged hadibur. And he says the Torah of Moses, the 5 books of Moses, they are connected to speech. Shepa'al hakol etzel Hashem yitzbarachim hadibur, because all the miracles in it happened through speech. About yeshla, or speech, and when I say speech, I mean, a lack of action. You don't have to do anything to make a miracle come about. It just happens. Shepa'al hakol etzel Hashem yitzbarachim hadibur. About yeshla hitlabshut al yedei hamidot gam ba'olam ha'atziyah. Now here comes his big chiddush here, the idea that he's going to present, which is that the power of that world, the world of dibur, has hitlabshut in this world. Hitlabshut means kind of like it's disguised. It comes from the word to put on clothes. We can find the world of speech and the power of that world in this world. That is to say, we can tap into the more esoteric, abstract feelings of God, feelings of that power in this world of action, in this world of things. Kama'amar hakatuv, as we read in Isaiah, Ani Rishon v'Ani Achron, I'm the first and I'm the last. That is to say, God existed, before this world, and God exists in this world now, as it is created in this moment. Even though we can't experience God in each and every moment like we might if we lived in a higher realm, so to speak, in this Kabbalistic sense of multiple worlds, still God's presence is hiding in plain sight. I am the first and I'm the last, God says in Isaiah. That is to say, here I am in this moment too. Not just when the world was created, but here, now. V'hine Korach. And this is what Korach, this was his problem. When he saw that his generation was not going to enter the land of Israel, he didn't believe that world of speech, the way one can experience God when they have put aside all physical things. He didn't believe that feeling of God was attainable in the world of action. He thought that there's the world of physical things and God is disconnected from it. He didn't believe that the world of dibur, the power of that world, is attainable here in the physical world. And this is one of my favorite things that he's going to say. And so he says, because of that, God punished him like for like. And this was Korach's punishment. The land opened its mouth. Don't forget, Korach was swallowed into the earth. That's his very strange punishment. Why that punishment in particular? Well, the Kedusha Levi has this narrative as to why that punishment in particular. There's a world of speech and a world of action. And Korach did not believe that the God who exists in these higher, more esoteric realms existed in the land of, in this physical world around us. So what did he do? V'tiftach haaretz etz picha. The land opened its mouth. Haaretz, says the Kedusha Levi, hu ha'olam ha'asiyah. The land, this represents the world of action. It's physical. The aretz is the epitome of physicality. Laharot shegam ba'olam ha'asiyah yesh la hitzlavshut Torat Moshe. And he had the thing, the earth, the thing that represents, the epitome of physicality, open its mouth. Dibur, this is where speech comes from, in order to teach Korach and to teach those who believed him that the power of those higher worlds are hidden right here in the physical world. V'zehu haremez ben Yitzhar. I think we'll finish that's the main idea here. We'll finish his comment, which is, and this is the hint with his name. Ben Yitzhar is Lashon Behirut. Yitzhar, he says, remember, he's the son of Yitzhar, Yitzhar is a word indicating clarity, says the Kedusha Levi, clarity that God exists in this world too. Ben Kahat, Lashon Achdu. Kahat is a word that indicates unity. That is to say, the unity of God existing in other worlds and existing in all worlds at the same time. Ben Levi, son of Levi. This is Lashon Hitchabrut, the language of companionship. That is to say that God's presence is a constant companion in each and every realm, in the higher worlds and the lower worlds. Hapa'am, it says, L'remez shekorach lo haya ma'amin rak b'olam hadibor. Korach did not, Korach only believed in the world of speech. Sheyesh lo shlosha bechinot elu. And he had only these three aspects that we just said. He didn't believe that there is also God existing in a disguised way in the world of action. But that's not true. The truth is that God exists here too, hidden in plain sight all around us. Kamamar HaKatuv, as we read in Isaiah, Ani Rishon V'ani Acharon. I am the first, I am the last. I am the one who was present at the moment of creation, and I am the one who is present now in this moment. I will. Yes, my mom is here, by the way, helping us pack to get ready to move. Yes. By the way, if anybody else has a question, please share in the text, in the chat.
So, I know that you can repeat. Is there anything to be said, which is very interesting, that you have the people, the desert people who are like Bamidbar and the speech people, and then going into the land of Israel are going to be like people of action. And it seems to me that there's that transitional moment before entering the land of Israel when Moses hits the rock, action, instead of speaking to the rock.
Yeah.
And so it's like emblematic of the transition.
I love that. Yeah.
From Dibor to action. And it's interesting of where he was supposed to maybe kind of hang in there with the action and be sort of a role model of that. And who knows, had he done that, he may have had the opportunity to cross and then be a leader from action. But it's like a transitional.
Well, I see it a little differently. So my mom suggested, she pointed to the scene of Moses striking the rock. Had he not done that, then perhaps Moses would have gone into the land of Israel. To me, I see that as being expanding what we've said. Remember, Moses is not of the generation of action. he's of the generation of speech. And so later on in the book of Numbers, when Moses, will hit the rock, it's almost as if he's blurring the lines here. He's trying to be, the leader of action instead of the leader of speech, of words. Remember, he was supposed to speak to the rock and not hit the rock. But there, Moses, perhaps it would have been a teaching moment about the power of speech, about the power of God, and in terms of the world of speech, when we're talking about these different worlds, in kind of the Kabbalistic sense.
It's almost like he wasn't. It wasn't enough for him to accept himself as the leader
of that generation,
with
right.
the talents that he had in that role.
I think there's lots of ways you can read it. It's not just his own striving for more. It doesn't strike me that Moses would try to be. He didn't necessarily even want to be the leader in the first place.
Right.
Let alone try to lead more people than he was. But he did want to go into the land of Israel. So, but I do think that's there is what to think about there in terms of blurring the lines between speech and action. I also want to recognize all of the lovely comments in the chat. Rosalie, Irkart, me, Marvin, NS, Daniel. It's been a pleasure learning with all of you. We've been doing Hasidut for a long time now, and it's been really special for me too. And cool, Bruno. You called me one of the coolest rabbis you ever met. I love that. Thank you so much. We will continue Hasidut. I don't see why not. I'll be traveling next week, so I'm not sure we'll do it, and I'll be on the East Coast. So you can catch us here. Not here on this YouTube channel, but I'll paste it in the chat again. That's my YouTube channel, and we'll be doing Hasidut from that channel. Hopefully next week, but if not, we'll do it in ongoing weeks. And even if it moves channels again, to my new synagogue in Chattanooga, Tennessee, to B'nai Zion, you can still follow it through that or through my Facebook page. I think we'll still do the Kedusha Levi. I feel like we've been doing it for a year, and we still have not scratched the surface of everything that he has to offer. Thank you, Rosa, for that lovely blessing. And thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight and for learning for this past year. Thank you to my mom for having a working hotspot so we could stream tonight's teaching. And wish us luck in our move. On Monday, we actually start driving. I drive to Chattanooga. Kayla and the kids will fly a little bit later. Okay, Shavua Tov. I look forward to more learning in the future. Feel free to stay in touch on that YouTube page or on social media. Okay, bye everybody.
What did they say in their chats?